Sup nerds, here's my updated mommy controlled deck profile. Starting off with our Tama, we are obviously still running 4 mothers. The only effect that actually matters on this card is all turns its Digimon can attack and isn't affected by your opponent's effects, and it has 15,000 DP. Everything else is super irrelevant, so I won't even bother reading it. And then we are going to do this in sections. We're going to start off with the new cards we had to put in the deck to give Mother Blocker. So we actually are running the Marine Bullmon package, which is kind of a meme, along with the Gizamons, but you know, I mean, it does work. So Marine Bullmon from BT19 does have decode, but that's irrelevant because we don't play any level 4 blues. On player, when Digivolving, may place one Digimon card with Aqua or Sea Animal and one of its traits from your hand as one of your Digimon's bottom Digivolution card. And then Gizamon from BT19 is a Sea Animal, and then an inheritable is Blocker. So you hard play this, tuck Gizamon under Mother, and she has Blocker forever, which is actually pretty cool because playing Shoto, the Shotos could get stunned or removed, and then you would not be able to give Mother Blocker. So if you see this 2-card combo, she has Blocker forever because they can't strip her sources because she's immune. That is it. The rest of their effects are super irrelevant and don't come up, so I'm not even going to bother reading them. And then the next package to give Mother Blocker, we are playing 3 Rook Device, the promo. 3-cost black option. While you don't have Rook Device in the battle area, you may ignore this card's color requirements, which is nice. When effects trash this card from the battle area until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon gains Reboot and Blocker and gains 2,000 DP. And then main, to the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon gains Reboot and Blocker and gets 2,000 DP, then place this card in the battle area. So it is a delay card, however, it doesn't actually trash itself. You need another way to trash this card to get the second effect, which is the same as the main effect. Security effect is actually pretty nice. Security D-Evo 2, one of your opponent's Digimon, then add this card to the hand. So it is a security bomb, which is pretty dope. And I messed around with different ways to trash this card. You can play Pawn Device, but I actually landed on 2 Justimon Blitzarm Ace from BT19. So this guy hard plays for 6, which is the only way to put him on the field. And then on player, when Digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn, the Digimon gains Blocker and is immune from by their Digimon effect, which is really good. And then when Digivolving / when attacking once per turn by trashing one option card in the battle area, this Digimon unsuspends. So what I like about this package is, yes, this can trigger the Rook Device because you can just trash it if it's delayed. But also if your opponent has delay options and they don't answer this when it hits the field, which is kind of hard to do when it's immune, you can start trashing their delay options. So people can't just like set up a whole bunch of delays on you and like hope to promote and like wombo you. But that is it. We're just playing that little 5-card package as well. Onto the recovery package, we are playing 4 Magna Angemon Ace from BT14. Does hard play for 4, and then on play when Digivolving, if you have fire for your security, recover +1. Then for the turn, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -1,000 DP for each card in your security stack. So this is a little baby removal as well as recovering if you're below the 6-card threshold. Pretty solid. And then we're not playing any other recovery besides the Seraphimon Ace from EX6. Does Evo on top of Magna for 3. Hard plays for 7. On play when Digivolving, recover +1. Really nice that there's no limit on this. Then all turns once per turn, when a card is added to your security stack, return one of your opponent's Digimon with as high or lower level as the number of your security cards to the hand. So this is also removal. It's bouncing removal, which is kind of bad. I prefer if it bot decked or something, but you know, we'll take what we can get. And that is it. Just that little 8-card recovery package. I had to slim on some stuff in order to fit those blocking packages in, and that was the recovery package was something I had to cut into. And now on to the removal / ace package, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So we were playing 3 Shadows. We cut this down because you can only blast on top of Seraphi and Magna, so it's not going to be alive a lot of the time. Also, it's not hard removal if you just slam it for 7. It's just D-Evos, which is really nice, but it's not something you want to have in your hand constantly. So it can just hard Evo on top of Seraphi for 1, which is something to keep in mind. Does have Blocker, which is nice, because sometimes Mommy doesn't have Blocker and you need to have a blocker on the field. On player, when Digivolving, D-Evo 3, one of your opponent's Digimon. Then all turns once per turn, when an attack target changes, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -5,000 DP for the turn. Pretty nice. I really wish they had printed this card to where it said when this card is suspended -5k. That way you could use it proactively, but there's no way to like force that effect unless you have like a raid Digimon or something. And then we are playing 4 Medieval Gallantmon from EX8. So it's a 11 to hard play, but when it would be played by suspending 2 Digimon, reduce the play cost by 4. Obviously you can suspend your opponent's Digimon for that effect unless they're immune from your effects. Does have Alliance and Vortex. Then when Digivolving, you may suspend 1 Digimon. Then you may delete one of your opponent's 8,000 DP or lower Digimon. For each other suspended Digimon, add 3,000 to this DP deletion effect's maximum. So it includes everybody but himself as far as like every other suspended Digimon, just so you know how that worded effect works. And then all turns once per turn, when Digimon are played, you may activate one of this Digimon's when Digivolving effect. So everybody knows what this card does. He just dunks on people. Really cool. You want to see this early and often, which is why I'm playing for. And then we are playing 2 Crimson Mode aces. You can only ace on top of the Medieval Gallantmon, so that's why I cut this down. Evos for 4 on top of Medieval Gallantmon, something to keep in mind because you can just game people with this card. On player, when Digivolving, delete up to 15,000 DP total worth of your opponent's Digimon. Then when attacking once per turn, for every 10 total cards in both players' trashes, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So if your opponent doesn't answer this, you can potentially just kill them if the game has gone long enough at that point. And then we are playing 4 Alphamon, or you can ace from BT20. So you can DNA into this guy because we are playing black level 6s as well as yellow and red level 6s. So it's actually pretty easy to do that if your board ends up going kind of wide. So something to keep in mind. But we're actually just playing this because it's a 9-cost Wyvern's Breath that can kill Magna X's basically, as well as pretty much anything in the game that's 15k or lower. On play, when Digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 15,000 DP into the end of their turn. Then if DNA Digivolving, trash your opponent's top security card and recover +1. And then all turns once per turn, when security stacks are removed from, gain 3 memory. So if you DNA into him, you're DNAing into him for -3 memory if your opponent has a security card to trash. But if your opponent doesn't answer this, you're going to just gain free memory every single turn if you're able to poke them, or if they poke you, which is pretty nice. And then we are playing 1 Aegistramon from EX8. I actually want to bump this up to 2. I'm not sure what I'm going to cut yet, but I do think a second one is worthy of an inclusion because of how good his Floodgate effect is. So we can hard Evo into this guy on top of all of our level 6s besides the Medieval Gallantmon, which you really don't want to Evo on top of anyway. And you can DNA into this guy sometimes as well. When Digivolving, return up to 14 play cost total worth of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. I'm not going to read the other effect because it doesn't do anything in this deck. And then all turns, while you have 1 or more memory, none of your DS trait Digimon are affected by your opponent's Digimon effect. So that's just him. He's the only DS card in the deck. And then while you have 1 or less, none of your opponent's Digimon can activate on play effects. So that is really good. It's a really good Floodgate versus Royal Knights unless they're just passing turn. And it's a really good effect versus cross decks because they're going to try to, like, you know, hard play something and get its effect and whatever. It's a really, really cool Floodgate. I actually like this better than Chaosmon Valdararm, which is something I considered in this deck. But I like the fact that this guy isn't just for 1 turn, it's forever, and it makes your opponent play really awkwardly into it. So yeah, I do want to bump this up to 2. Just not sure what I'm going to cut yet. And then we are playing 2 Death X from BT9. Since I did cut Crimson Mode down to 2, I needed a board wipe if my opponent ever goes super wide on me, because that's kind of how you lose. Your opponent just sets up too much stuff. So he does hard play for 20 or Evos for 6 on top of our black level 6s, which we have several. When this card would be played, reduce the play cost by 3 for each of your opponent's Digimon and Tamers. So if they have 7 things on the field, he is free, which is pretty sick. On play, when Digivolving, de-Evo 1 all of your opponent's Digimon, then delete all of their level 4 or lower Digimon. End of opponent's turn, once per turn, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So he himself will continue to be an annoyance and a nuisance until your opponent outs him, which a lot of decks struggle to out 15k bodies, especially if you have other things they need to prioritize. And then the last for the removal package, we are playing 2 Heaven's Judgment from EX4. This is basically just an answer to all of the immune to Digimon effect cards that are running around now. 7 cost option. While you have a green Tamer or Digimon, you may ignore this card's color requirements. Main, activate the effect below. For each color your Digimon have, activate it again. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 6,000 DP for the turn. If you have any Digimon in play that makes this card a legal activation, and as well as your mother, which is always going to be on the field, this is a minus 18,000 DP minimum. But if you have like your dual color or tricolor cards on the field, it gets pretty nutty. You can just clear entire boards with this card. And then the security effect is one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 12,000 DP for the turn. If that security effect were up to 15k, I would probably play 4 of this, even though it's not going to be live unless you have a yellow or green Digimon in play, since we don't play green Tamers anymore. RIP Shoto. But the main effect is so good at clearing wide boards. And that is it for the removal package. And then on to the memory gain / draw power package, which is all Tamers. We are still playing 4 Hakotu Amino Manakawa, whatever. 2 cost Tamer. Start of your turn, if your opponent has 3 or more Tamers, gain 1 memory. That's pretty nice against cross and other things that just spam Tamers. And then all turns, when an opponent plays a Digimon by suspending this Tamer, gain 1 memory if it's level 4 or higher, and draw 1 if it's level 3. So if they play 2 Digimon at the same time, and one is level 3 and one is level 4 or higher, you actually get both effects, which is pretty sick. And this actually checks at resolution. So if they have an effect that, like, if they hard play a rookie that lets it self evo into a level 4 or whatever, and then you get to tap this, you do get to gain a memory as opposed to draw a card. So something to know. And then we are playing 4 Digimon Emperor from BT8. This is still really good. It's really good against the Armor Rush decks and like Magna armor and whatever, and cross a little bit if you see it. I mean, obviously they can play around that, but all turns, when one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon is the lead, you may suspend his tamer to draw 1. Really good draw power. And then opponent's turn, when one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon is moved from their breeding area to the battle area, gain 2 memory. This is really, really good. Like, the biggest impact this had for me is playing against Magna armor. They can't promote a Vmon if you get a couple of these out to then evo into the starter deck Magnamon to strip and bounce one of your aces to get access to a bunch of memory, because if they promote, they'll just pass turn if you get multiple of these out, which is really, really nice because that is a really powerful effect into our aces. And then we are playing 3 starter deck 15 ties. It is a memory setter, and then all turns, when attack target is switched, by suspending this tamer, draw 1, and one of your Digimon gets 2000 DP until the end of the turn. So lots of Digimon now are bigger than 15k, so Mother just having blocker inherently is not going to be the safest thing versus like 16,000 DP Digimon that they're printing more of. So as she can go to 17, that makes it a lot safer for you to be able to block with her. I almost wanted to play 4 of this card, just because you want to see it pretty early, because it also makes your plugins live if you see multiple, because unless you can trash these, you need a black source to play the second one if the first one's still in the field, which is something to keep in mind. But ultimately, like, clogging on this really sucks. I just want to see 1 or 2, so I ended up cutting it to 3. But that is it for the draw power / annoyance package, I guess. But that is it for the list. I will be posting at least 1 gameplay video whenever that goes live. That'll be in the pinned comment below. But if you guys have any questions or anything I didn't address, feel free to leave them down in the comments. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing this kind of content when I come back for more. But until next time, see ya.